Welcome to the last tutorial in this chapter. Now, other things that we want to mention about Photoshop are, here is a typical menu bar that you're used to seeing. So when you have File, you're going to have your typical new file open, close, save. This is where you do that save for web and devices, that's where that is. Print, edit is where you do obviously most of your edits. Some things have to be selected for these to open up. Image, layers, has to do with all the layer commands, selecting things. These are certain filters that you're going to get to know of. Analysis, I believe this is in the extended part of Photoshop. 3D is in the extended part of Photoshop, so you may or may not have this. View, this is how you view your image. Window, these are certain windows, so if you don't see something open, let's use an example. Let's take layers. And you said close layers. Now there's no more layers. You can go to Window, Layers, shortcut F7, and Layers comes back. So that's a helpful thing. Also, three things in the help menu. A lot of people don't realize that the help menu has three important things. One is the help menu by pressing F1, of course. The other thing is, in order for you to use Photoshop on another computer, you need to go to Help, deactivate this computer, so that you can activate it on the other computer. So if you have problems, it's probably because you didn't deactivate it first. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is sometimes we get confused on which Photoshop we have. I know that sounds funny. I've talked to people and go, I don't know, is it CS whatever? So a quick way to do that is just go to Help and say About Photoshop, and this will bring up Photoshop version 12, and it's CS5. Mine's extended, but maybe you'll have CS5, okay? And you just click again and we'll take it away. Okay, now these are tools, as I said previously, okay, and they're divided into certain sections. We'll talk about them later. You can see here the divider between each one. Okay, now as you select each tool, the tool options here will reflect the change. So if I select the marquee, you'll see that these tool options open up. If I select the lasso tool, these will open up. Crop tool, gradient, pen tool, you'll notice how each one changes to reflect. Okay? If you have a problem with any of these tools, you can always click this down arrow. Oh, excuse me, my bad. Right click on the arrow and say reset the tool or reset all of the tools. I usually will just click reset tool, but sometimes I will use reset all tools, because sometimes you'll forget which settings you have, and sometimes you just want to clear it quickly, and that's the easiest way to do it. Another thing about the tool options here is you can see this double line, this double dotted line. You can drag it out and move it around if you want, but you can't dock it anywhere else. So that's a funny thing about it. See, you can't dock it anywhere. I wish, so sometimes what I do is, to get around that, I know that I'm in Essentials workspace. I'm not going to use that CS Live over there. So what I'll do is I'll just cover the area I'm not going to use up here. And this will be stationary, and then that way I can have more real estate space. If you want to dock it back, just go ahead and move it back to the area. See the blue there? And it will pop it back in place. Now you'll notice up here I said that the view is 16.7. It's also confirmed down here at the bottom of the screen. It says 16.67. Okay? It's the size of the image in relation. Okay, it's not the actual size of the image. Okay? Okay, what I wanted to show you is here is the size of your document. So the before is on the left hand, the original, and the after is any changes or anything that you've done to make that file size increase. What I've done is I duplicated the image real quick by pressing Control J. I'll show you about that later. And this doubled the size of the file, as you can see here. Now you're not restricted to just seeing this. You can click on these double arrows here. Let me select the move tool, sorry. And you can choose the document profile. So this is an sRGB. Ugh. Okay. You can choose document dimensions. This is 17 by 11 in inches. You can choose The scratch size tells you how big it is. Efficiency, it's running at 100%. If you start to see that it's running under 100%, then that means it's using a scratch disk, which I'll show you in a second, which means you may need some more RAM. And you'll probably see why Photoshop is kind of stalling a little. The current tool that I'm using is the Move tool, as you see here. And you select each one, it changes to reflect. Okay, so let me go back to document size. I like document size, that's just me. And then we're going to go to the last settings here. Go to Edit, Preferences, General, Control K. And you can go through the preferences and and test them out to see which ones work for you. Maybe some work for you, maybe some don't. Okay. Beep when done, I leave that unchecked. That was one of those I leave unchecked. I'm not sure if it stays checked or not, but that's one that I did. Reset all warning dialogues. Maybe sometimes you say you'll see later on that it says to ignore this, click here, and maybe you'll do this so many times you'll forget that you made a mistake or something might happen. You can reset them all just by clicking this, and that's very handy. The interface, maybe you're not happy with this beautiful gray here. I would suggest leaving it the gray because it will not, it's best for editing photos in a neutral gray color. But if you want, you can change it. Remember the full screen, how I showed you with black? You can change that too. Show channels and colors. Let's click that and I'll show you what that means. You see how the channels are in red, green, blue? How does that help you? That doesn't help you for anything. So that's just one of those settings that you'll see later why I'm making a joke about that. But I leave that unchecked. Show tooltips. Maybe you forget what a tool is. Okay, so if you have this unchecked, you won't see this tooltip as you see right now. I leave it checked. Sometimes I forget. That's just me. Okay. File handling. It's okay. Just leave it as is. Performance is interesting. This is the memory usage. I have 30 to 55 megabytes of RAM available. The ideal range is here. Let Photoshop use this. You can increase or decrease if you want. This is the history states. What this means, if you make a mistake, you can go back as much as 20 times. If you don't like that, you can increase it to 30. Just be careful. The more history states you have, the more RAM it's using. Okay, but I think between 20 and 40, or at least 20 and 50, you're okay. All right. This is the scratch disk it's going to use. It's telling me that I have 617 gigabytes free. So in other words, if all the available RAM is being used, it's going to go to this disk to write or read information. Right here is a detect video card. Enable OpenGL drawing. You want that checked, and it tells you right down there. Activate certain features and interface enhancements. The bird's eye view, which I'll show you in the next chapter, and some other things that you'll see and why this is important to have. Cursors. How do you want your cursor displayed? Do you want it standard, where you see a paintbrush? No, 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 no. Do you want it precise? That's nice, but sometimes it's hard to see the cursor. Normal brush tip, that's nice, but it doesn't show you the full size, because here's the full size. That's where you see how in the middle is the actual brush stroke, and as it fades, so this is including all that fade. So whether you like that or not is up to you. You can leave it at normal. Show crosshairs and the brush to help you out. Okay, show crosshairs while you're only painting. I don't like that one. I'll leave it here sometimes, and sometimes I'll change it. I believe you can press caps and that will change that for you. Here's other cursors. You can have them standard or precise, so you know which cursor you're using. I usually leave that as standard. This is transparent gamma. I'll talk about that later. Units and rulers. Remember when you saw that ruler? It was in inches. This is why. And then you have some other options. These are type, okay, plugins, and these for extended. And then I'm gonna click cancel because I already have the settings that I like.